Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. In today's episode, we'll recap the Trea Turner weekend and everything that went on at Citizens Bank Park with a great standing ovation for the Phillies' new shortstop and how he responded. We'll talk a little bit about the Phillies Nationals 4-game set that starts tonight and the Brandon Marsh injury. It could play majorly into the Philadelphia Phillies' ability to win games down the stretch. So I want to have a little cautionary conversation about that as well. All of that on today's episode of Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm your host, Connor Thomas. Thank you so much for tuning in today, whether you're listening in podcast form, watching on the YouTube. I urge you, please rate, review, subscribe, all that good stuff. Subscribe to the YouTube. It takes like 2 seconds. It costs you nothing. Gives you notifications when new episodes are posted. Appreciate anyone who's already done that. And if you haven't, what are you waiting for? Locked On Phillies, it's a great time to subscribe as the Phillies are getting ready for their deep playoff push. We hope something similar to what happened last year in 2022. And they're currently in a wild card spot and kind of extending themselves from the rest of the field. So this is where you want to jump on the Locked On Phillies bandwagon. But thank you so much for checking us out. Locked On Phillies is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And what a weekend it was for the Philadelphia Phillies. Now, they lost Friday night to the Kansas City Royals in a head-scratching loss, and it was a lot of it fell on Aaron Nola. I get that. That was not good. That was one of the more annoying losses of the season. I feel like we're saying that every single day now. But what happened Saturday and Sunday at the bank was absolutely magical. And it wasn't blowout games against the Royals. In fact, the Royals played the Phillies really well. If they're walking out of Citizens Bank Park, if I'm a Royals fan, I feel pretty good about the effort that my team put in. And if I'm a Phillies fan, I say, okay, we took 2 out of 3. Probably should have been 3 out of 3. But Trea Turner stole the highlights this weekend, the limelight, the spotlight. That's probably the right expression. He stole the spotlight this weekend with what happened at Citizens Bank Park. Now, maybe he'll do it again tonight against his old team, the Washington Nationals. The Phillies play the Nationals 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can listen to every pitch of the Phillies' hometown radio broadcast of that game on the SiriusXM app. Just go to the SXM app and search Phillies, and you'll be able to pull that all up there. But here's basically the scenario. Trea Turner's been struggling. We know this. We know that he's been awful this year based on what he is historically as a player, both in the field and at the dish, and mentally seems to be struggling, and Rob Thompson had to send him down. He was ejected recently from a game because he's just really, you could tell he's getting annoyed with how he's been playing. So the fan base decided that they were going to give him a standing ovation to show their support for Trea Turner. And I was expecting it to be kind of like a one-time thing or a one-game thing. No, it extended all weekend long, and the players and Trea Turner could not have been more thankful. Like, it was a moment that it sent ripple waves. I guess that's not that. Ripples, waves, either or, but not both. It made waves across Major League Baseball. A lot of people noticed what was going on in Philadelphia with the fan base standing up and cheering for Trea Turner. Some people called it soft. I'll tell you what I call it. I call it supportive. I call it passionate. I call it smart, knowing this guy's going to be here for a long time and wanting to try and help him get right mentally and let him know what type of city he chose to play possibly the rest of his career in. So I think all of that plays. And for the short term, it seems like it might have some prospects of potentially working out. So Friday night, he had one hit. It was like a ripped line drive, and that was a good sign. So you get that. That was the first night you got the standing ovation. The Phillies lost to the Royals, unfortunately, because Aaron Nola just couldn't get the job done on the mound. Stop me if you've heard that one before. But then Saturday night, in a tight game, Trea Turner hits a big 3-run home run as the crowd stands on their feet for him. That was awesome. Later on in the game, he hits a big RBI double. That was great as well. I mean, those were 2 huge at-bats for him, 2 of his biggest swings of the year. And then he has one hit in Sunday's game, but the Philadelphia Phillies take care of business and win. I mean, the Saturday night moment was just, it was something magical. the fans standing in anticipation of something special from Trea Turner, knowing he's capable of that and willing him on, like pleading for him. And he delivers, and then he goes in the dugout and comes back up and gets the curtain call, the rare curtain call here in Philadelphia, which you don't see happen all that often. I mean, off the top of my head, the guys on the team that have gotten one, Bryce Harper for sure, maybe JT or Reese. I don't remember Kyle Schwarber ever getting one. It doesn't happen all that often. And even though the standing ovation was not earned, it was something that the fan base was giving him to try and get him to play better. That curtain call was absolutely earned. And here's why the standing ovation I loved, right? I don't think it caused Trea Turner to hit a home run. Like I don't. I think you could cheer for someone as much as you want. If you cheer for me like that, you give me a standing ovation for all 162 games. I'm not hitting a damn home run at the major league level. I just don't have it in me. Now he does, obviously. I'm just saying I don't think it affected his performance like in that linear of a sense. But I do think mentally relieving some of the pressure he's feeling is key. And I also think it works in multiple ways, right? So the first most obvious way is you stand up, you cheer for Trea Turner. Trea Turner feels better about himself because he knows that even though they're going to boo me sometimes, this fan base supports me. They want me to play well. This is a place that's passionate. They get what I'm going through, and they're taking time out of being one of the tougher fan bases in all of sports to say, hey, man, we get it. We understand what you're going through. We want you to play better. Here's our support. Like, that's meaningful to him. He took out a billboard to say thank you. He posted an Instagram story to say thank you. I mean, he was very appreciative when you heard him talk about what happened this weekend. But so were his teammates. And you saw Nick Castellanos standing up at the front of the dugout, waving a towel in the air the first time they gave the standing ovation. I mean, Bryce Harper talked about it. Bryson Stott talked about it. Like, so many guys mentioned how much it meant to them to play in a city like Philadelphia that would support Trea and how cool that is. So it's helping Trea mentally. I don't know about like physically, obviously, but mentally it's clearly helping Trea. He felt like that was a benefit to him, which that's a good thing. And his teammates felt like it was a great move by the fan base. And that's a good thing because that makes them more trusting and happy to be playing here in Philadelphia. And then finally, don't think that Royals players didn't notice. Don't think that other players around baseball weren't scrolling their Instagram or Twitter feed and saw what happened in Philadelphia and didn't notice. I mean, the Phillies are in a championship contention window. That means that there's going to be big-time free agents out there and available, or even trade targets that maybe have a no-trade clause or something that the Phillies are going to want to acquire. And those players are going to have to want to come to Philadelphia. What the fan base did this weekend in support of Trea Turner makes professional athletes want to play in Philadelphia. It's that simple. I mean, it does. Wouldn't you want to play in a place where if you were struggling, they give you that standing ovation support? Or would you want to play in a place where if you're struggling, either the fans stop showing up or they start booing you like crazy and everything? And listen, I'm not anti the boo. I'm also not totally pro the standing ovation. I just thought it was like a nice gesture for the Philadelphia Phillies fan base. You're a fan. You could do what you want when you pay your money for the ticket. And the fan base decided that they wanted to cheer on Trea Turner. And I'm totally all in favor of that. The fact that they made that decision, stuck by it, and it seems to have put him in a good mental spot. I don't know that it's like the best practice for everybody. Like, I don't think Junior Marte should get a standing ovation the next time out. I don't think Jeff Hoffman should get a standing ovation the next time out. But in rare circumstances, like Alec Boehm's kind of meltdown that got caught on television last year that led to a standing ovation the next night, it can be warranted and it can be helpful. And I think the Philadelphia Phillies fan base did a great job with that this weekend. So, yes, the Trea Turner weekend was successful. The Phillies won 2 out of 3 against the Royals. They're now 3 games up in the wild card standings. We'll talk more about that later. And they're heading into a series with the Nationals. Also at Citizens Bank Park, 4 games, all very winnable. See if you can turn that momentum into a bit of a run here to continue extending your lead in the postseason picture. Coming up next, we're going to preview that series with the Philadelphia Phillies and the Washington Nationals and discuss what exactly is going on there and what to look forward to in a winnable series for the Titans. We'll do that as we get back here on Locked On Phillies. First, though, I want to tell you about my friend over at Dave. Sorry, I should say friends, because Dave isn't a person. No. Here's what Dave is. Let me tell you, all right? You ever think one time or another, we all need a little help financially, right? That's why Dave's great. Dave can get you cash when you need a hand between paychecks and can help you build credit by settling extra cash advances on time. So here's basically what it works, right? Dave's a banking app. It levels the financial playing field. If you feel like you're constantly behind the eight ball, listen, I've been there. I've been there recently. Well, when you download Dave, you can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less. No credit check, no late fees. It's part of Dave's extra cash account. Advance the money you need with no interest, and then you settle up later. It sounds too good to be true, right? But it's not with Dave. Extra cash gives you more money to buy groceries, fill your tank up with gas, finally get your car repaired, catch up on bills, all that good stuff without having to wait for your next paycheck. You don't have to choose between, do I get McDonald's this week? Like, do I get fast food this week? Or do I actually go out to the grocery store and have meals to cook and have enough? Do I get half a tank of gas or can I actually afford to fill the tank? Can I make rent this year? Or do I have to, I don't know, push off a credit card payment and deal with the interest? No. Dave helps you settle up everything with your finances. You can even build credit when you settle up on time. Millions of people have already downloaded the Dave app to make their finances easier. So if you're in a pinch, get the help you need by downloading Dave. Download Dave today at dave.com/MLB. That's dave.com/MLB. And you can get up to $500 in 5 minutes or less. No credit check, no late fees. So download the Dave app now or go to dave.com/MLB. For terms and conditions, go to dave.com/legal. Eligibility criteria and instant transfer fees apply. Banking services provided by Evolve. Member FDIC. All right, let's talk Phillies Nationals. Phillies play the Nationals starting tonight, 6:40 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is first pitch for Game 1. You can listen to every pitch of the Phillies' hometown radio broadcast of that game on the SiriusXM app. Just go to the SXM app and search Phillies. And tonight you got Ranger Suarez on the mound facing off against Trevor Williams. Suarez has been struggling lately. Trevor Williams, not bad actually, but not great this year. And we know the Nationals are a bit of a dumpster fire at points. Trevor Williams is 5-6 on the year with a 4.72 ERA and a 1.49 WHIP. Suarez 2-5 on the year with a 4.01 ERA and a 1.43 WHIP. I mean, relatively comparable pitchers. Suarez gives up less runs because he's only given up 8 home runs. Trevor Williams has given up 22. So you can really definitely use the long ball to hurt the Nationals today with Trevor Williams pitching, a right-handed pitcher. So it plays the lefty power bats for the Philadelphia Phillies. ESPN analytics are giving the Phillies a 61.6% chance to win this game. And it's a very winnable series for the Philadelphia Phillies in general. I'm going to go through the lineup and then I'm going to just kind of talk to you about what the expectations for the series are. So for the Phillies today, facing off against Trevor Williams, they got Kyle Schwarber leading off and DHing. Alec Boehm's going to play third base and bat second. Bryce Harper batting third, playing first. Nick Castellanos cleanup, playing right field. Bryce Stott batting fifth, playing second. JT Realmuto batting sixth, playing catcher. Trea Turner batting seventh, playing shortstop. Jake Cave out there in left field, batting eighth, and Johan Rojas in center because of the Brandon Marsh injury, which we will talk about coming out. But yeah, Cave bats eighth, Rojas bats ninth. Their career versus Trevor Williams, Kyle Schwarber is 10 for 37 with 4 home runs and 4 RBIs. That's pretty darn good. Alec Boehm's 1 for 6. Bryce Harper 3 for 9 for a 3.33 average. Nick Castellanos 11 for 28 with 2 home runs. Bryson Stott 1 for 7. JT Realmuto 5 for 10 with 3 home runs. JT Realmuto sees Trevor Williams really, really well. Trea Turner 5 for 19 with 3 home runs, 7 RBIs, the most of any Philly in the lineup in his career against Trevor Williams. Maybe it's another kind of step in the right direction game for Trea Turner. Jake Cave is over 2 career, and Johan Rojas has never seen him. But I mean, some of those numbers, there's power numbers against Trevor Williams. Expect the ball to leave the yard tonight. That would be my advice when it comes to looking forward to this Philadelphia Phillies Washington Nationals game. And just looking at the series, I mean, the guys that you have throwing this series. So you got, I'm sorry, I'm just seeing this. Is Nationals Phillies postponed? My ESPN app is showing that the game has been postponed. Let me go ahead and do a little bit of research on this and see. Why would the game have been? Due to inclement weather. Wow, look at that. Well, no Phillies game tonight. Night off. All right, well, there you have it. We're previewing Phillies Nationals tomorrow, I guess. Well, that's interesting. They're going to go ahead and I guess do a doubleheader tomorrow. Matt Gelb has a tweet out. Yes, doubleheader tomorrow for the Phillies Nationals. That's a very early call of the game. I'm looking out my window right now, and I was going to say it looked fine outside. But I guess they see some really inclement weather coming in later tonight with storms. So scratch all of that. Doubleheader. You're going to have to play the Nationals well in a doubleheader. Now, remember last year, a big doubleheader sweep late in the season is what kind of pushed the Phillies towards the playoffs against the Nationals. So maybe they can go ahead and do that again. But in a 4-game set, having 4 games in 3 days, no bueno. Having an off day today, though, is huge during that 17-game stretch. So that actually is a really big benefit for the Philadelphia Phillies. Sorry, I'm just seeing that. That was, it was postponed as of 3 minutes ago. Well, that's what happens. You got to keep your head on a swivel when you're doing a podcast to make sure everything is locked in. But okay, Phillies Nationals is now tomorrow at they'll have one. They've got one listed at 4:05 p.m. The schedule might change around, but whatever time the game is played, you can listen to every pitch of the Phillies hometown radio broadcast of that game on the SiriusXM app. Just go to the SXM app and search Phillies, and you'll be able to pull that all up there. It doesn't matter when they play. It doesn't matter if they play 4 games in one day. Bottom line is the expectation for this series is you should be able to win 3 of 4 games against the Nationals and give yourself a look at 4 of 4. Same thing as the Royals series, right? You want to sweep. Sometimes it's most often unrealistic to expect a sweep going into a series, but you want to win the series. And I think the Phillies should have swept the Royals, but I'm going to live with 2 of 3. This is the same thing with the Nationals, right? I think the Phillies can sweep the Nationals. I'd absolutely live with 3 of 4. That's just consistent good baseball. That would put them at 5-2 on this homestand against some bad teams. I mean, that's building more space in the wild card race between them and the teams chasing them. Right now in the wild card standings, you've got San Francisco and Philly tied at the top, both 3 games over the Chicago Cubs, who are in the 3rd and final wild card spot. San Francisco 61-51, Phillies 61-51. I mean, those teams seem to be on a collision course. We still got a ways to go. Like the Giants could fall off, the Cubs could make a run, the Marlins could make a run, the Diamondbacks can make a run, the Reds could make a run. The Padres, don't look now, only 3 games out of a final wild card spot. They've still got 2 months to try and make up ground. I mean, a lot of stuff could happen in the wild card race, but the Phillies, as long as they keep winning series, are going to be one of those 3 teams in and look to be one of the top 2 teams, meaning they'd be able to play another wild card team instead of a division winner. And if they're that top team, they get home games for that entire wild card series. So, yes, continually important games the rest of the way. And that's my general preview of Nationals Phillies. But hey, of course, we'll talk more tomorrow when the games are actually getting played. So a little double dose of baseball tomorrow. That'll be fun. Coming up next, I'm going to jump into something that I didn't hear too much about this weekend. And I don't know if it just hasn't sunk in yet, or if people aren't really giving this like due justice as far as how this affects the Philadelphia Phillies. But the Brandon Marsh injury is something the Phillies are very much going to have to mitigate coming up. And it's going to be a bit of a tough road for the next couple weeks. I'll tell you why, and we'll jump into it a little bit more as we wrap up Locked On Phillies. Oh, but first, I got to tell you about my friends over at BetterHelp, okay? So, listen, sometimes in life, we're faced with tough choices, and the path forward is not always clear. I mean, you might have a difficult career choice coming up. Maybe you want to switch careers and change what you're doing with your life. Maybe it's a moving thing. Maybe a lot of people are moving now with remote work and stuff like that being a different thing. Okay, I want to work from home, and then I can move wherever I want, but that can come with stresses. The economy is in a weird place. The housing market's in a weird place. There's a lot of stresses of everyday life, folks. And whether you're dealing with decisions around your career, relationships, or anything else, therapy helps you stay connected to what you really want while you navigate your life. So you can move forward with confidence and excitement. And trusting yourself to make decisions that align with your values is like anything. The more you practice it, the easier it gets. So let me give you a great way to practice it. Well, go ahead and check out BetterHelp, okay? If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, which is great. It makes it super simple to do it from anywhere. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Therapy is about inclusion and ease and making you feel comfortable. Well, part of that is the scheduling and how easy it is to get an appointment and everything. And with BetterHelp, it's super easy. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. So let therapy be your map to the winding road of life with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnMLB today, and you'll get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnMLB. All right, so this weekend in the series with the Kansas City Royals, Brandon Marsh was racing back towards the center field fence and tried to make a play on the ball and ended up smashing into the fence and twisting his knee up. Now, I'll tell you, the second I saw it, I was watching with a buddy. He's like, "Ooh, that's bad. What do you think he did?" I was like, "Well, he's walking off, so that means it's probably not tendon or ligament." And he also was in, you could tell it wasn't his ankle because of the way he was walking. Like he was putting pressure on his ankle. It looked to be his knee, which it turned out to be. And then also you kind of saw that it was an impact thing, not really like a twisting thing. So that to me says like bruise or something like that, or some type of contusion. And then the fact that he was in significant pain, it looks like, also says bruise or contusion. Because sometimes you can, like an ACL tear or some type of tendon or ligament damage, isn't as painful as a contusion. It's obviously a much lengthier injury to try and come back from, but there's times where you could snap your ACL and walk off the field like Carson Wentz did and everything like that. And you're not grimacing as much because it's not as sharp a pain, I guess. I don't know. I've never done it, but this is secondhand from guys that have done it, that have told me about it and things like that. So I had high hopes that this was going to be a minor injury for Brandon Marsh, and it's relative to like a torn ACL minor. I mean, he's got a knee contusion. It sounds like it's going to be possibly up to 3 weeks out. He went on the injured list this weekend. And this is huge for a couple of reasons. First of all, Brandon Marsh being zoned in and ready for the playoffs is key. Now, if he comes back in 3 weeks, he's going to have about a month sprint to get ready and get back into form. And that's not counting rehab starts or anything. Who knows when he's going to be back and swinging. This could put him in a cold stretch before the playoffs, which would not be good. But also, it now makes Johan Rojas super important. And the Phillies didn't add an outfielder at the deadline. It would have been nice at this point if they had, but they did not. So right now, I think your outfield is probably going to be Jake Cave on some days, Kyle Schwarber on some days in left field, Johan Rojas every day in center field, and Nick Castellanos every day in right field. You don't have a lot of outfield depth anymore. So until Brandon Marsh is back, Johan Rojas is going to have to be really good. And Jake Cave on some days is going to have to be really good too. And both of those guys, Jake Cave is a little bit more proven, but he's got a little bit less potential for excitement to me. Johan Rojas is not as proven, but he's a very toolsy, fast, athletic outfielder that maybe can hit at this level. I don't know, but we haven't seen a lot. I think there's a much deeper discussion to be had about what Johan Rojas can potentially do as your everyday center fielder, and I don't know that it's a good one. I haven't seen enough from him yet to prove to me that he can be an everyday player in center field, and he's been really good since he's been up. This is not a knock on Johan Rojas. I just don't know. He's an unknown. He was a cool call-up to potentially play left field every once in a while. Now that he might be your everyday center fielder for a month, well, that could be a scary prospect if he's not ready to hit at this level. We know the defense will play, but yeah, I'm very interested to see what happens. So maybe it's more of a nervous thing than it's a bad thing, but Johan Rojas has a real big opportunity here to prove that he could play at this level, or he's going to be saddled with a real big burden of having trouble to help this team in Brandon Marsh's absence. So that's something that really needs to keep an eye on. That center field spot and one of the lower spots in the lineup is going to be Johan Rojas's largely for the next 3 weeks. So we'll see exactly how that plays out, but something to keep an eye on as the Phillies make their playoff push. That's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you so much for checking us out. Make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing. Locked On Phillies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. Got a doubleheader to prepare for tomorrow. So I'm going to go do that. And I will talk to you next time on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.